Good morning. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Today we are on lesson 45 of the Gospel of Luke, and we're covering Luke chapter 20, verses 1 through 26. This one's called Authority. Authority is the power to make decisions, give orders, or enforce obedience. When it comes to the Bible, this authority includes the ability to give the correct interpretation. We can see numerous ways that Jesus demonstrated his divine authority during his 3-year ministry. Numerous times, and approaching countless times, Jesus demonstrated this authority by casting out demons. This was knowable and provable, for others could see the change that occurred in these people after the demons had been cast out. Another way Jesus demonstrated his authority was healing people. Most of these occurrences were also knowable and provable. Seeing a withered hand changed to non-withered is both seeable and knowable. Unlike faith healers today, who either heal people by making a false claim or the people claim a false healing. Stating that one's back hurts and after the healing it no longer hurts is not provable or observable, just a claim. But a man who was blind since birth being able to see is powerful. A paralytic picking up his bed and walking is also powerful. Jesus also demonstrated his authority by resurrecting people from the dead. Elisha and Elijah also demonstrated this power in the Old Testament, and this certainly was God-given power. Having the power over life and death displays the authority of God. Jesus also gave this power to his disciples, the power over demons, over diseases, and even over death. But the authority Jesus claimed to have that was not provable was the most important, the authority to forgive sin. The Pharisees were most offended by this claim, is because only God can forgive sin. It was a claim by Jesus to be God. The stance taken by the Pharisees was that Jesus was a blasphemer, but they should have been able to see the truth of this claim because all of the other claims of Jesus were true. So that claim also must be true. Let's read the first passage. Luke chapter 20, verses 1 through 8 says this. Now it happened on one of those days, as he taught the people in the temple and preached the gospel, that the chief priests and the scribes, together with the elders, confronted him and spoke to him, saying, Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things? Or who is he who gave you this authority? But he answered and said to them, I also will ask you one thing, and answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? And they reasoned among themselves, saying, If we say from heaven, he will say, Why then do you not believe him? But if we say from men, all the people will stone us, for they are persuaded that John was a prophet. So they answered that they did not know where it was from. And Jesus said to them, Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. Notice that Jesus does not answer the question from the chief priests, scribes, and elders, as he knew they would not accept his truthful answer, and it would be a waste of time. Arguing against someone who already has their mind made up always is a waste of time. I remember 40 years ago, we could actually have conversations with people of different opinions that never approached being an argument. People could remain civil and agree to disagree if it came to that point. But we all need to remember that it is impossible to learn anything from someone we agree with entirely or have the same exact knowledge base. We learn from people with different opinions, who have expertise in different fields of study. Most people tend to avoid politics and religion, as most of those discussions can turn to anger. There is zero chance anyone could convince me that Jesus is not exactly who he claimed to be. While I'm willing to discuss that with anyone, if they thought there was any chance they could change my mind, they would be mistaken. But I'm open to hear any other opinions. That knowledge might give us insight into how to tell them about Jesus. Jesus asked the Pharisees his own question. Was the baptism of John from heaven or from men? Jesus realized that whatever answer they gave would paint the Pharisees into a corner. The Pharisees did not support John the Baptist any more than they supported Jesus. But the Pharisees knew that the people were certain that John the Baptist was a prophet. If they disagreed, especially after the martyrdom of John the Baptist, they would lose people who were believing their message or following them. If they attributed the ministry of John to men, they would be saying that John was not a prophet of God, and the people might just stone the Pharisees for that heretical belief. This is exactly what the Pharisees had done with Jesus, attributing his works and the works of the Holy Spirit to Satan. Fortunately for Jesus, this conversation with the Pharisees was a brief one. Let's read the next passage. Luke chapter 20, verses 9 through 19 says this. Then he began to tell the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard, leased it to vine dressers, and went into a far country for a long time. Now at vintage time, he sent a servant to the vine dressers that they might give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent another servant, and they beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent a third, and they wounded him also and cast him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they will respect him when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, "Certainly not." Then he looked at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder." And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. Certainly the people listening knew the scriptures well enough to know that Jesus was referring to the vineyard of Israel that I have quoted recently from Isaiah. We'll do this again. Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 through 7 says this. Now let me sing to my beloved a song of my beloved regarding his vineyard. My well-beloved has a vineyard on a very fruitful hill. He dug it up and cleared out its stones and planted it with the choicest vine. He built a tower in its midst and also made a winepress in it. So he expected it to bring forth good grapes, but it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, please, between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Why then, when I expected it to bring forth good grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes? And now, please, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it shall be burned, and break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down. I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned or dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain on it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. He looked for justice, but behold, oppression, for righteousness, but behold, a cry for help. God did everything for Israel. but the people of Israel remained wild grapes instead of good grapes. God chose the Jewish people, rescued them from slavery, kept them safe on a journey to a land he had prepared and created for them, a land flowing with milk and honey. God gave them a way for their sins to be forgiven, but when the Savior came, they rejected Jesus and did not recognize him. In this parable, Jesus identifies exactly what the Pharisees were trying to do. The Pharisees wanted to own the vineyard and wanted to kill the Son of the Father, as the Father had planted, protected, and preserved the vineyard, the nation of Israel. The Pharisees had rejected the stone, who was revealed as the chief cornerstone. Jesus was the foundation of Christianity, the foundation of the church, and the foundation of salvation. There's no way to the Father except through the Son. This prophetic passage from Isaiah reminds us that the response of Israel was not surprising to God in any way. Let's read the last passage today. Luke chapter 20, verses 20 through 26 says this: "So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, that they might seize on his words, in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. Then they asked him, saying, 'Teacher, we know that you say and teach rightly, and you do not show personal favoritism, but teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?' But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, 'Why do you test me? Show me a denarius. Whose image and description does it have?' They answered and said, 'Caesar's.' And he said to them, 'Render therefore to Caesar's the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.' But they could not catch him in his words in the presence of the people, and they marveled at his answer and kept silent." Many atheists and agnostics today argue that Jesus never claimed to be God, but that is not even close to the truth. Again, every single time that Jesus claimed to have the authority to forgive sin, he absolutely was claiming to be God. As pointed out earlier, I think the Jews completely missed the Old Testament scriptures that told people years in advance that the Messiah would be much more than a conquering king or a man coming to save them. He would be God incarnate and sinless. For anyone who does not understand the context, notice the response by the Pharisees. When they accused Jesus of blasphemy, it is because he is claimed to be God. In this passage, Luke clearly states that the Jewish religious authorities were uniting in their pursuit of having Jesus killed. They had the power to convict Jesus, but the Jews were governed by the Romans. Only the Romans had the power to enforce a death sentence. The Jewish leadership accused Jesus of blasphemy because he claimed to be God, but this was not against any Roman law. Notice that the chief priests, scribes, elders, Pharisees, and Sadducees have one goal. In this passage, they are trying to show Jesus that they agree with him and are on his side while getting him to make a verbal mistake. Certainly, these people would have loved to be in the technology era of voice recording and would gladly take the words of Jesus out of context. When asked whether it was correct to pay taxes or not to pay taxes, these sneaky religious authorities were prepared for only two responses by Jesus. If Jesus said that Jews should not pay taxes to Caesar, they would take the report to Pontius Pilate, accusing Jesus of sedition against Caesar and against the Roman government. If Jesus told them they should pay taxes, they would tell all the Jews that Jesus was a Roman sympathizer. Instead, Jesus gave a third, unanticipated answer. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. They had to be frustrated. It was like Jesus knew what they were going to ask before they asked the questions. Exactly. If only they would have figured out that truth, they would have known where the authority of Jesus came from. I don't fault the Pharisees for questioning Jesus. Actually, it was their job to do exactly that. They needed to make sure that Jesus was exactly who he claimed to be. But the problem was that Jesus spoke with authority like no one before him. He healed with that authority. He cast out demons with that authority as well. And when accused by the Pharisees of using satanic power or demonic power, Jesus rightly stated that there would be no benefit in Satan casting out a demon. Why would Satan fight against Satan? The inability of the Pharisees to acknowledge Jesus as Messiah appears to be egotism, not wanting to relinquish their own power. C.S. Lewis correctly pointed out that for people to study the teachings of Jesus and think that he was a great man and a moral teacher, but not the Son of God, is not even a possibility. The claims of Jesus made this impossible. Either Jesus was the Son of God, or he was a complete nut, as his claims were fantastic. But that is the decision each of us has to make. Our decision has eternal consequences. Think of the ultimate scene in Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade when the Nazi chooses the incorrect grail, melts into nothingness, and the Crusader states, he chose poorly. We need to choose wisely. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Have a blessed day.